Yeah, thank you. I voted against this the last time, and I guess my concern is, although is twofold. One is that although these are unappropriated funds, I would assume that the funds that one keeps for self-insurance or emergencies is always unappropriated because you're waiting for something to happen that you hope doesn't happen. But you keep it there, it doesn't have a label on it, and so we're spending out of that pot, and that does concern me. And the other thing that concerns me is the overall issue that it just does not feel right to me that we are spending taxpayer money to pay to a private corporation that caused us a lot of anxiety in the city and really shouldn't have gotten into that contract in the first place. And we're walking away giving 1.6 million of taxpayer money to make them go away. I understand that maybe we need to make them go away, but I'm not happy about that.
And would you, so would you have said, basically, I know that you were the only one, I believe, Pam, is that correct? What was the vote on the?
I was only named.
The only name?
It says so.
Oh, I'm sorry, I don't have my backup materials in front of me. So you were willing to take the chance that the attorneys were saying to go to court and try your case when some of the judgments against us were upward of $20 million? Is that fiscally responsible?
No, I think my strongest feeling about it is simply that we want to make very sure as a commission that we are careful to not make decisions that seem like a good idea at the time and wind up turning into lawsuits down the pike. And that's not easy to do. We are not gifted with full foresight, but this one did have some situations to it that were also like the Sunset Bridge. There was a strong public unhappiness in the community at the time that this was started. It was by no means something that had broad support, and I think that's come back to me with trouble, and I would just caution that we not repeat those kinds of things.
Well, I think we have a lot of lessons to learn from this situation, to be quite honest with you, on many different levels. I know I happened to be part of that mediation process, so I was there, and I was watching the attorneys go back and forth, and they were not budging from that $7 million number at all, anywhere, any shape, any whatever, and by the end of the day,
Sorry.
Yep.
I'm not an attorney, but I play a lot of TV.
Okay. But that was mentioned at the last meeting, I believe.
Okay.
But just having been there and going through the process, you know, I don't like making decisions like that, and you've never known me, I'm sure, to walk away from a fight, especially one night. So I don't go gently. But you know, for the best interest of the city at that point and what we had looking forward to us, you know, we have to make a decision. I just wonder, I mean, it's easy to say you don't want to vote for something, but I just, you know, we're trying to make the right decision for the city here. Vice Mayor?
Thank you. You know, we're all elected here to make the best decisions on behalf of the community at large on a daily basis. Every time we're asked to vote, it should be in the best interest of the city. And I agree with you. We should not make foolish decisions on the tax, how to spend the taxpayers' money. But I think it was borne out in our last meeting that the folks that put us, the commissioners, the elected body that put us in this position in the first place to have a lawsuit, have been advised repeatedly not to go down that path by a number of people, both inside the organization and outside the organization. But they opted, for whatever reason, to put us in that position. And we got sued. Okay, not only did we get sued, but we couldn't produce good enough witnesses to defend our own case. So, you know, I was kind of curious of what the mayor just said. You know, are you suggesting that maybe we should prosecute this case and go and take our chances? Because if you are, make the motion. And, you know, maybe I'll second it. You know, do you think I want to give up $2.4 million and walk away? We should have never been in this position, ever in this position. We didn't take staff's advice. We didn't take the advice of the public, but we did it because there were 3 or 4 personalities on this commission who thought they were smarter and brighter than the rest of us. And they just cost us $2.4 million on top of millions of other dollars that cost us over the years. This is just one example of poor decision making by commissioners. And I'm sick to my stomach that we have to give up this kind of money. But what choice do we have? Do I roll the dice when we come back, 6 months down the road, we're down $10 or $15 million? Then how do I live with myself as an individual? How does any of us live with ourselves? How do we explain that to the people in the audience? Our choices aren't good. We were put in a very bad position by some very poor decision making by previous elected officials.
Commissioner McBoy?
And I think we actually agree. I think we just might not agree on which commissioners will make which decisions that we don't think are such good ones. My point would be that I think a very strong piece of it is not the technicalities of how things were handled once a contract was starting to run into some difficulties. My point is that when we as commissioners make decisions and we have either not done due diligence to make sure that there is pretty broad support, if they're big level decisions, in the community, then we are going down a path that leads to a lot of difficulties. And if we haven't done the due diligence, we should. If we are aware that there are strong concerns in the community, when people take the trouble to collect a large number of petitions in the heat part of the year, hot part of the year, in 30 days, that reflects a very high level of unhappiness. And I think that information was out there, and yet commissioners sometimes chose to go forward. I would recommend that we try to avoid that, to avoid these kind of problems.
And I agree with what you say, though. When we as commissioners, you're saying, make decisions that would go against the will of what you say, a lot of people that felt that way. When we as commissioners make decisions that end up putting the city and its residents in jeopardy, we have to make sure we don't repeat that mistake again as well. Just as important as listening is making sure that we do not put our political ideology in front of what we need to do for the rights of our citizens and to protect the city and all of its residents and taxpayers of the city. We have to do everything by the book, by the letter, by the law. That's our job, to do that and to protect them. Vice Mayor?
And to your point, as you were speaking, Commissioner McCoy, it just occurred to me, if I could allow myself to assume for a moment that you're absolutely correct, that there was this broad-based support that the community did not want any part of Greater Bay. I'll give you credit for that, just for a moment. But I think that those same people, even though they did not want that arrangement, didn't like the plan or the direction or whatever, I don't think they would want us to act irresponsibly in our efforts to get out of that deal. And I think that's really what this is all about. I think if you went back and talked to the very people that you suggest were against the Greater Bay deal and asked them, well, gee, we were advised to do it one way or not to do it one way, and we didn't take that. How do you feel about that? I think you get a very different answer. They'd still be opposed to the Greater Bay deal, but to be equally as disappointed and upset about the way it was handled. But we had an opportunity, it sounds like, to get out of that deal if we had just bided our time and allowed them to not move forward, which is what the issue was. And that's why we're here tonight. It's not whether or not it was a good deal or it was a bad deal, whether there was broad-based community support or there wasn't broad-based community support. The problem was the decision was made irresponsibly, and now it's cost us millions of dollars. That's the issue.
I mean, I apologize. I was out of town. That was a Wednesday evening. I got called for that last meeting on this, and I just wanted to say, in addition to what already has been said, that we need to run this place like a business too. We have a very strong responsibility to mind all of the money that's being put through our budget, and it has to be run like a business here. We cannot afford to mismanage anything, and that this is a business decision. We all make decisions like this where it just isn't something we would like to do or have been in a position to do. But we need to move on and make some progress here, and I think that's what we're all up here to do. So I feel that even though it isn't something that's palatable, I think we've used good rationale, decide that this is going to be by far the best move we could make at this time for the long run, and we need to make this happen right now.
I just want to mention a little bit about broad-based community support. In this case, broad-based community